Good morning, everybody. It's Coffee and Politics 101 with Cydney Walker. And very important topic, a much needed conversation that I have been trying to do since I've started the show. And I was gracious enough to have most of the Dallas County Family Court judges on the show to kind of kick the ball off and get it rolling with the dialogue about divorce reform and CPS. So today I am joined by Jeff Morgan and Kristi Kramer Davis to talk about those two topics. So thank you so much for coming on and good morning.
Thank you so much and good morning.
Yes, so Jeff, you have been involved with these efforts from a grandparent and parental standpoint.
That is correct.
So I just want you guys to introduce yourselves to my audience and tell them why y'all are such rock stars. And then we'll just go ahead and just jump right into the conversation and just go from there.
Okay, well, thank you. My name is Jeff Morgan, and I got involved with this not because I wanted to, but because I became a person who felt like I had to. I want to just be playing with my grandkids.
Right.
But when you see things that happen and all of a sudden you see that, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, but you do see that the way that our legal system is set up, the way that our laws are written, it's almost as if it encourages divorce, encourages family destruction. And in fact, I would argue that the divorce laws in the state of Texas are the divorce laws that Vladimir Lenin imposed upon Bolshevik Russia.
Oh my gosh. That is frightening to hear, especially since Russia has been a huge topic over the past couple of years. As I remember growing up, when Reagan was in office, the Cold War, and then it just kind of disappeared and died. So to hear that that's what it seems like the structure is and pattern, that is disheartening to hear.
It is disheartening to hear, but I think that it's the truth. So what happened when Vladimir Lenin came to power, one of the things that he did was institute unilateral divorce.
Okay.
It allowed any person to dissolve their marriage. Now, he had an ideology behind it, but basically what it ended up doing was tearing down the entire family structure. And the interesting thing is that shortly after that, they had an abortion problem then too. Prior to that, there were no abortion issues to speak of. So you have to draw the linkage. Unilateral divorce, abortion. But I think the difference that happened between the Bolshevik Russia and America is that when he imposed unilateral divorce on the country, it was countrywide. When we started to implement,
Vary from state to state.
State to state over 40 years. So California was first in 1969. The last state was New York, and that was in 2010. So you have a 40-year span. And people don't put together, well, we have these problems that have been developing incrementally over time. But the problem is the unilateral divorce law. What it did, it completely destroyed marriage. Marriage no longer, for all intents and purposes, has any legal protection. And when you go to divorce court, for example, and I did bring the Texas Family Code with me. I don't want to let Kristi talk a little bit too here.
Yes.
But really, when you go to the divorce, to the Texas Family Code, or as I call the Texas Anti-Family Code, because in much of the things that are written in there, I would argue it is anti-family, it is destructive, and it causes a lot of the problems. But they have in 6.001 the statute for insupportability. Now, usually when you look at a statute or a section, they will give definitions.
Right.
So insupportability is never defined. Nobody knows what insupportability means. But then after that, they talk about the 6 fault-based reasons for divorce. The reality is almost everybody uses insupportability. How can you prove it? If I commit a crime, if I go and rob somebody, and they have me on video camera, they say, well, Mr. Morgan, you're on this video camera, we have this recording.
Right. It's irrefutable.
Exactly. When you go into divorce court, what you have to know is this. Number one, divorce is a lawsuit.
Yes.
Your spouse is filing a lawsuit against you. Number two, you will always lose.
Yes.
You will always lose.
It does feel that way.
Well, and I'll go a little bit further. I was at a conference just a week or two ago, and there were attorneys there. And I was talking with this one attorney, and I said, it is the proof that the defendant can never win is that can you list to me 3 instances in the last 5 years in which a judge has denied divorce?
Okay.
And she says, well, actually I can give you an example.
How long ago was it?
1991. An example. So here she's trying to think, well, I'm just refuting him. She proved my point.
Right.
One case from 28 years ago. And again, this is a lawsuit. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to, well, it wouldn't be nice, but I mean, wouldn't it be convenient to go up to a rich neighbor and say, he's got a lot of money. I'm going to sue you.
Right.
And I win automatically. He owes me something. And this
Right.
is what happens in divorce all the time, except the stakes are much higher than just money. It's children.
Yes, it is. So I'm going to let Kristi here introduce herself, because you have an important piece to talk about, because a lot of times, and I wish there were movements to change this, someone files for divorce and now all of a sudden CPS gets involved. Even though CPS wasn't involved while you were making the kids and raising them from the early days.
Right. So for our family situation, I never thought that we would go through divorce. And, you know, I thought, well, we're a Christian couple. We both believe in marriage. We both love family.
Right.
And so, you know, whatever problems we face, then we will get through it together.
Right.
And we did have issues, but I figured we'll just work
Work
through
through
them until we figure
Go to
something
therapy.
out.
Yes,
Yes,
go,
we did.
yes.
And so, so then found myself in a situation where we were separated for the purpose of working on the relationship. And then at the end of that designated separation time, he asked to continue the separation, and then finally told me about 10 months later he wanted a divorce. There was no reason, there was no biblical reason. It was just a matter of, I think, convenience, and at that point, you know, with having other people sort of coming beside him and saying, sure, you know, this is the right thing to do, or you can do this, or.
So we talked about no-fault divorce. And how, you know, that just allows everybody to get a divorce for no particular reason. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Because, you know, people change. The relationship changes. And you just kind of fall out of love, grow out of love, whatever it is. So you just decide that, you know, it's just best, instead of, you know, forcing myself to pretend like I want to be with this person for the sake of kids or whatever. I would rather end the relationship and show them a healthier relationship that I've chosen to be in with somebody else. So, you know, how do you address that? Because, yeah, it would be nice if people stayed together for 50 years and death actually parted them, but that's not the reality that we live in today.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and answer first then, and then you can follow up, Kristi. But I think we need to get away from the idea that no-fault divorce is always a mutual thing.
Okay.
It is forced divorce. It is unilateral divorce. It is imposed divorce. And this is where I talk about our Texas Family Code actually enabling and permitting domestic violence or domestic terrorism, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
Going back, a person can say, listen, I no longer want to be married to you, period. And the other person can say, but wait a minute, what did I do wrong?
Right.
You know, so for example, you know, my wife could say to me, Jeff, I want a divorce for you because you're too fat.
You snore at night.
I snore at night.
You just
Well,
work my
actually,
nerves.
and the reality is they don't even need to use that, because you don't even have to provide a reason for a divorce. If you write certain things down, use certain phrases within the Texas Anti-Family Code, they will accept your petition. And you know what? You win 100% of the time. And in addition to winning, what you do is this, because somehow we have this idea that, well, if we split everything 50-50, that's fair. No, it's not fair.
Well, the kids aren't furniture.
Well, it's not just that, but the thing is that I can use no-fault divorce. I could be running around, excuse me for the crassness of my language here, but whoring with other women. I could say, you know, I've got 10 different women on the side.
Right.
And my wife doesn't like it. Well, you know what? Our marriage is now insupportable. And I get to file for divorce. And because usually the person who files for divorce has the upper edge.
Yes.
So,
And they tell you that.
And they
When
tell you
go
that.
into the attorney's office, they encourage you to be the first to strike.
And I have talked to other people that said that isn't true. And I know 100 people that Yeah.
Well,
Even if you're not married and whoever files for custody in situations where there isn't a marriage and there is a custody fight, that seems to happen. The person has the upper edge. And I recently learned that lies become the truth in family court. Because with civil courts, and I have discussed this on the show before, with criminal courts, it has to be the preponderance of evidence that it can't be refuted. It can't be, well, it looked like this person, because then that introduces reasonable doubt. In civil courts, you don't have to provide any hard evidence to show. All you have to do is just say, oh yeah, this was going on.
but see, Cydney, it's even worse in divorce court, family court, anti-family court, whatever you want to call it. When I went through divorce, my ex-wife filed against me. I could have had 100 people testify on my behalf and saying this marriage should not be destroyed. But you know what? Their testimony, every single testimony is worthless because she had filed a piece of paper. And when we talk about issues like due process or equal protection under the law, in family court, those things are gone. They do not exist. And it's a big problem. So, you know, even if we had some of the protections that you were talking about, it would be great. But you don't have to have any evidence. Did you sign the paperwork? Yes. Did you check the box? Yes. Did you wait your 60 days? Yes. That's all that matters. And the reality is the Texas Family Code says the judge may grant a divorce, but if the judge is granting a divorce 100% of the time, do they not understand English?
Right.
The judge should be able to say, wait a minute, there's no evidence here. This guy or this lady does not want it. The kids don't want it. I am going to pander to the selfish nature of one person, and that person may be out, like I said, running around with somebody else, maybe abusing his wife, and, well, she doesn't like the fact that I'm beating her up.
Right.
But I get to file for divorce against her because our marriage is insupportable. That's how perverse this thing is. It's that bad.